November, we had similar breakdowns, though the one of November was not as major, when we had a breakdown of some conductor at Carrier 2 compared to the one of August when we lost the whole country. So we have been meeting yesterday. When it happened, I was flying in from Dubai, and I experienced firsthand the anger because I was at the airport when the belt stopped, and therefore we could not get our luggages. The generator did not take off immediately, and it's a challenge that as a country we are really ashamed of, and we need to address it. Yesterday was caused by an overload between Kisumu, Moroni, when there was sudden demand, and the line that between Kisumu and Moroni is dimensioned to carry 80 megawatts. When the line went down, it was carrying 120 megawatts, and suddenly there was a demand of an additional 20 megawatts on that line. For a line to be carrying 149 megawatts when it is designed for 80, it felt threatened, and it dripped and cascaded down to the rest of the country. So on the 10th December 2023, yesterday, at about 7:33 p.m. in the evening, the country experienced a partial blackout on the electric power system, with Musaga substation supplying parts of western region remaining on supply from Uganda. The system demand at the time of incident was 1,732 megawatts. We know the problem. We're trying to address it. This time round, we hope we'll get it right and be able to sort out the Western Kenya voltage and frequency challenges which keep dripping the network. So that was the problem yesterday. We are working on mitigation measures to see, even as we take the long haul.
Well, that is an interesting bit right there. And still on matters electricity shortage, or rather power outage, Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has written to the Inspector General of Police, Japheth Koome, to investigate possible acts of sabotage and cover up following constant power outages at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA. In the letter, the CS said that December 10th, power outage resulted in some parts of the airport being in darkness due to a failure of the changeover to the standby generators. He added that the facility has in the recent past experienced similar incidences where there has been the failure of the changeover to the standby generators. Now, Murkomen said that the matter has been addressed progressively and numerous tests conducted to ensure that there is an immediate changeover in the event of a power outage. Now, the purpose of this letter is to request you to assign a team of investigators to investigate this recent failure to ensure that this is not act of sabotage, taking into account that JKIA is a facility of strategic national security and economic importance. That is what the Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen said on the letter addressed to the Inspector General of Police and also the DCI. That is quite interesting right there. Remember, this is the second time that JKIA has gone on a blackout, and you can imagine how strategic that specific airport is in the country. As a matter of fact, it is the gateway of Kenya. Now, moving away from that, the Jamhuri Day celebrations are upon us. One of the most delightful performances Kenyans usually look forward to during this ceremony is the music and marching presented by the Kenya Defence Forces. Now, the performance known as Trooping of the Colors has been known as to indeed make the event colorful, if not amazing. Consolata Chibalonza dives deep into what exactly happens and where the event originated from. Let's listen in.
Jamhuri Day is a national holiday in Kenya, celebrated on the 12th of December each year. Jamhuri is Swahili word for republic, officially marks the date when Kenya became an independent country since 12th December 1963, 6 months after gaining internal self-rule on 1st June 1963, celebrated as Madaraka Day from the United Kingdom. Kenya later became a republic with the inauguration of Jomo Kenyatta as president taking place on the 12th of December 1964, exactly 1 year after Kenya attained independence in 1963. Kenyatta, having been previously sworn in as prime minister, continued as prime minister of newly independent Kenya before assuming the position of president 1 year after Independence Day. Today, we'll look at a ceremony that has always been occasioned during this monumental day, the trooping of the color of the Kenya Defence Forces. The trooping of the colour is a practice held in high esteem by the Kenya Defence Forces, initiated by the British Army. Regimental flags of the British Army were historically described as colours because they displayed the uniform colours and insignia worn by the soldiers of different units. The name colour continues to be used to this day. The principal role of a regiment's colour was to provide a rallying point on the battlefield. This was important because without modern communication, it was all too easy for troops to become disoriented and separated from their unit during conflict. The ceremony of trooping the colour is believed to have been performed first during the reign of King Charles II, that is in 1660 to 1685. In 1748, it was decided that this parade will be used to mark the official birthday of the monarch, and it became an annual event after George III became king in 1760.
Escort for the colour! And close order! Left! Just!
The trooping of the colour of the Kenya Defence Forces takes place every Jamhuri Day. The ceremony begins at 11:30 a.m. after the President of Kenya takes the national salute and inspects the parade. The band plays a slow march followed with a quick march. The lone drummer then breaks away to take his position beside number 1 guard to play the drummer's call, signaling the officers of number 1 guard to take positions to receive the colour.
Wide and left! Slow march!
The escort for the colour then marches off to collect the colour as the massed KDF band plays the chosen Kenyan tune. After the handover and as the escort presents arms, the first verse of the Kenya national anthem is played. Then the escort to the colour marches off in a slow march to the tune of the British Grenadier Guards. The first tune normally played during the march is always by Land and Sea. The parade concludes by marching to the tune of Kenya Daima as the tri-service parade exits.
Parade will march up into divisions. We are duties. By the left. Quick march.
Jamhuri Day is occasionally also used by the military to grant infantry battalions their formal presidential and regimental colors. The honored unit, upon being conferred the colors, proceeds with the trooping of the color. In such a ceremony, the president as commander-in-chief is formally dressed in ceremonial regalia, that is the Kenya Army red tunic dress as seen during the 55th Jamhuri celebrations, in which Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was the then president. And once the flags are consecrated by an Anglican bishop, a Catholic bishop, and a Muslim Qadi, the president formally hands the colors to two flag bearers who receive them when down on one knee. As you enjoy your Jamhuri Day today, do it with a patriotic smile and wide understanding of the happenings on the field in which the president stands in. Consolata Chibalonza, on behalf of EBN TV, happy Jamhuri Day.
Well, many thanks, Chibalonza, for that specific report. Now, as Kenyans celebrating Jamhuri Day on Tuesday, or rather, as Kenyans will be celebrating Jamhuri Day today for having gained 60 years of freedom, that is basically 60 years since becoming a state, or rather a nation. Now, I will take that again, as Kenyans celebrate Jamhuri Day today. Now, EBN TV has visited residents from Nairobi County who gave their views about the celebrations and issues they expect the president to address today during his speech. Now, this will be President William Ruto's second Jamhuri Day celebrations since assuming office in the year 2022 September.
Kusherehekea miaka 60 ya uhuru wetu kama Wanakenya ni jambo la kujivunia, kwa sababu tukiangalia wenzetu walio jirani zetu wengine wanahangaika katika kupata ule uhuru ambao tuko nao. So ni kitu ambazo hatuwezi tukua tu kama mzaha, kwa sababu ni kitu ambao tumetunukiwa na Mungu. Kile tungeomba ni amani izidi, na pia serikali yetu iweze kuangalia katika maisha ya mwanadamu, ya mwananchi wa kawaida.
Sababu sina kitu ninajivunia, siende hata kusherekea. Nitaenda huko aseme Rais, unasikia nasema unga ni 130, ukienda kwa duka ni 200, 180. Sasa heri nikae tu hapa nijidanganye na hii yangu kuliko yeye aenda nidanganye tena ingine.
Ana na juzi tumeona controversy. Anasema economy sasa imestabilize. Waziri wake wa economy anasema ni kubaya. So tatujui nani anafaa kupatia mwingine mwelekeo. Manake mwenye anamfanyia hesabu zake anasema ni kubaya, na ameang boots hata alipi watu wenye wanafanya kazi, na yeye mdosi anasema ni kuzuri. So na expect asobe rap, aongee ukweli, watu wajipange. Tujue tutategemea mahindi kwa shamba ama tutafanya nini.
Tutafunga because it's a holiday and it's gazetted, and tutapatia my employees wetu off pia waendelee wakijienjoy. Angeweza ku address the high cost of living, one affecting the country. Two, businesses zetu zimeumia sana cause of the taxation. Hizo ndio angeza shughulikia, and the promises zile alimake at least aweze kuzifuatilia, hata kama si 100%, maybe ka 70% of that inaweza kuwa mzuri sana.
Zile promises alitupromise, mafuta itashuka, uchumi itakuwa better. So tungependa kuona hizo vitu kesho na mambo iko tu live, mambo iko tu sawa.
So aende sasa taratibu, kwa sababu madeni mengi awashaakiria, yale yamebaki wajua vile wataongea ili maisha iweze kushuka chini, ya kwamba kila mtu anaweza jishikia kakitu mikononi mwake. Isiwe kila mtu ni kuomba, ukisikia simu ikiingia unasikia mwenzako ni kuomba naomba na mwingine ni kuomba.
Well, now away from that, on matters NGCDF, the government has increased bursaries under the constituency's development fund to ensure smooth learning. Now this follows the signing of into law of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Amendment Bill by President William Ruto on Monday. The law increases the allocation from 35% to 40%, a move that will facilitate continuity and completion of education by students. Now, the additional funds will also cater for school feeding programs, especially in drought-stricken areas. Let's listen in to that specific signing.
NGCDF amendment, I think it gives us an opportunity to work with members of parliament in every constituency to tackle two pressing matters. the matters of managing our environment because of the effects of climate change. We have to be deliberate in making sure that we engage a whole of society approach in making sure that we intervene in various spaces that will help us manage environmental degradation, management of our water towers, management of our wetlands, and mobilizing the whole of society to intervene in that space that all of us now agree poses an existential threat not just to Kenya, but to humanity.
Well, and a quick one on today's dailies, starting with the Daily Nation. Kenya at 60, dreams of our fathers, basically highlighting from the first founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, all the way to the current fifth president, William Ruto. At independence, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, our founding father, had lofty dreams for the country, ones that would free its citizens from poverty, ignorance, hunger, and disease, the four things he was talking about. But 60 years later, and with a fifth president just 1 year into office, it's a mixed bag for Kenyans. Now, basically, we are waiting some of the statistics highlighted by today's Daily Nation. KNBS statistics, education in 1965 to the year 2022, number of schools, primary were 5,150. Today we have 81,454 primary schools since independence. Number of schools, that is secondary school, in 1965 there were only 222 secondary schools. Today we do have 10,502. Number of teachers, 11,764. Today we do have 221,510 for primary and over 124,000 for secondary schools, all the way to university. Number of total number of students enrolled at the university back then in the year 1965 was 1,011. That was the University of East Africa and University College, that is basically Nairobi. Today we do have 631,378 students enrolled in different institutions across the country. Now, health, number of registered doctors and dentists back then was 738. Today we do have 10,575. Basically, unemployment, which actually active employment back then was 1.8 million. Today we do have 19.1 million employment. That tells you that there is significant growth in different aspects if measured since Kenya became an independent nation. Now, highlighting different matters right here by the Daily Nation, things to do with poverty in 1963, according to the World Data Atlas Poverty and Inequality Database, the Kenya poverty rate in 1992 was 31.7%. These are basically some of the issues that are used to measure the growth of our nation since we became a republic in 1964. Now, motorists face higher charges in NTSA plan. The transport sector regulator proposes to review its service charges by up to a whopping 3,900% to plug a budget deficit of more than 2.37 billion Kenya shillings. Now, proposed by a proposal by the National Transport and Safety Authority, that is NTSA, says the agency has been reporting a deficit in its financial performance over time, with a shortfall of 550 million Kenya shillings in the financial year that ended June 30th. Now they seek to introduce new measures that will make sure that they do record profit, major profit of 3,900%. Well, waiting to see how motorists will react to that specific issue. Put asunder, it's over, says man at center of Bomet wedding drama. Basically, bridegroom entangled in a controversy with his would-be bride has officially called off the wedding. Now, even for going to an extent of forgiving the bride who missed to attend that specific wedding, even after planning everything, but then ending up to disappoint the bridegroom to be. Now, the law 2.5% of revenue raised every year shared among 290 constituency. Bursaries will take up to 40% of NGCDF as Ruto signs into law. Now, with MPs only having 3% to ensure that they can prioritize other issues that are not as important as education, amongst other issues. Now, climate change fight and development of digital hubs will also draw from the fund. Now, this is actually quite interesting. It now seems that climate action will also be some of the roles that the MPs are expected to use the money for. Well, that is quite good. We are just waiting to see how it will be implemented right there. Now, quickly moving to today's The Standard, as you can see on your screens in a short while. Country in darkness. Now, Sunday's national outage resulted in huge losses for businesses, nightmare for hospitals without backup generators, and frustrations for millions of homesteads. The Energy CS blamed the frequent blackouts on a lack of investment and said rationing, especially in Western Kenya, will help, even as Road CS blamed JKIA power cut on sabotage. Basically, that is Kipchumba Murkomen. As you can see right there, 9.2 million households have been connected to national grid, up from 2.3 million in 2013. Since devolution, over 6 million Kenyans have been connected, or rather households have been connected to the national grid. What Davis Churchill, the CS of Energy, had to say about that is, sorry, we know where the problem is and we are addressing it. The gist of it is the lack of investment over a long time, basically, all of them trying to defend themselves. Assign a team of investigators to investigate this recent failure to ensure that these are not acts of sabotage, taking into account that JKIA is a facility of strategic national security. Basically what the CS of Transport, Kipchumba Murkomen, had to say about that. Then the head of corporate affairs, Bernard Osero, says there was a ship with only 20 containers, but it could not be worked on until morning because the cranes require power. This was a big loss because ships usually make money when they are in the high seas. Well, basically what the port's heads of corporate affairs had to say. Now, number of national outages experienced in the country this year alone is 4 of them. You can imagine, 12 months up to today. This year alone, actually, the year 2023, we've experienced 4 national outages, with 2 of them being major ones that have affected the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Now, waiting to see also if the Energy CS and also Transport CS will act to this. Will they fire people this time round, or will they allow the necessary departments to investigate and find possible solutions to these specific issues that are currently affecting Kenyans in different parts? Now, fossil fuel, a hot potato in Dubai Climate Summit. Remember, many have been protesting against fossil fuel, and also matters to do with financing climate change action. Basically what is ongoing right there. President William Ruto was there earlier on. And now COP28, fossil fuel not hot potato in Dubai climate conference, African representatives pushed for a just energy transition that addresses the historic neglect of the continent. The UN summit has directed significant focus on providing alternative jobs for carbon-intensive sectors. Basically, what is climate change, what President William Ruto has been advocating for. Nairobi in list of African cities to receive 500 million Kenya shillings to fight air pollution. Remember, that is also what the CS Njuguna Ndungu said earlier on during his visit right there. Now, Keroches to lose prime properties to auctioneers, basically on the issues. Remember, the Keroche breweries have been facing so many court cases with regards to from the issue to do with the lack of remitting their taxes. Now KRA officials reopened Keroche breweries on 29th, 7th, 2022, 2 weeks after Justice Alfred Mabea directed the taxman to unseal the packaging lines. Basically 22 billion amount that KRA claimed Keroche owed the state in unpaid taxes. The issues that are currently facing that specific breweries outlet. Now Jamhuri Day, the editor, management and staff, or basically what is ongoing right there. We are waiting to see how President William Ruto will lead this year's celebrations, it being his second since assuming office as the 5th president of Kenya. Why Kenyatta-era PSS face EACC investigations, Public Accounts Committee lists irregularities against former senior civil servants. Basically, what is ongoing right there, we're waiting to see if they can fully fight corruption as claimed by the current regime right there. Now, cash-strapped poster on the spot for ceding its land. Now, broker Posta Kenya is on the spot for giving up key revenue sources, including ceding prime land to private developers without much return for taxpayers. MPs Mal special sitting on report as Azimio split. Now MPs will be forced to cut short their break to consider National Dialogue Committee report as differences in the opposition camp deepen over the document. Now, the National Assembly majority and minority leaders have signaled that MPs will be recalled from long recess. Yeah, remember that currently the opposition is not in agreement with that specific report, as Odinga is the only one who seems to have fully accepted and terming it as a good start. Let's start from here as we discuss other issues later on, basically what President William Ruto would want to go on, but then it seems that the other co-principals, apart from Kalonzo Musyoka, who was part of that specific dialogue, are not supporting, including Martha Karua being the recent one to reject that specific report. Martha Koome, Justice in Kenya, a 60-year journey, basically, that is her commentary on the issues to do with some of the developments that the judicial system has experienced ever since Kenya became a republic in the year 1964. In a couple of minutes, we will be joined by our friend, that is a lawyer, Oruko, who will be helping us understand basically for the 60 years some of the major transformations that the country has experienced, all the way from matters to do with political issues, social issues, economically, how is Kenya doing, and also issues to do with the judicial system. Have we grown enough, and is Kenya ready to face other nations? Remember, a place like Buruburu used to be one of the most conspicuous estates that many countries, all the way from Singapore, people will fly in only to benchmark right here in Buruburu, try to learn one or new thing. But then reality is here with us today. Kenya is still a third world country. Singapore is 40 years ahead of time. What went wrong? Where did the rain start beating us as a nation? And then what do we expect from President William Ruto? Will he still dwell on matters cost of living, or will he defend his trips? Do we expect him to address the critical issues to do with education? Remember, January is almost here with us, and tertiary institution, students in tertiary institutions across the country expect him to address critical issues to do with the new funding system that many parents don't really seem to understand how it works. Well, we shall be back in a couple of minutes to try and break down all these issues. Remember, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta used to talk about, or rather talk of ending ujinga, basically illiteracy, be it diseases, all these issues the CS, or rather the first president sought to address. That was basically his dream. How well have we grown as a nation since becoming an independent nation back in 1963, then becoming a republic in 1964, with us today marking 60 years since becoming a republic nation.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world through the morning rush and the buzz. Find the voice you can trust, a voice of reason, a voice of direction, and a voice of hope.
Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Live. I'm Cynthia Nanjala.
And I'm Sammy Adika. Rise and shine, folks. We hope you are ready for an energizing start to your day.
Absolutely. We are here to bring you the latest headlines and trending news stories from the world of politics,
business and finance, health and lifestyle,
agriculture and sports.
So grab your coffee, sit back and get ready for a fantastic morning of engaging discussions and news segments.
Join us through our social media handles, #The Morning Live. This is Morning Live, exclusively on EBN TV.
Every Thursday from 8:30 p.m.
Listen, every man needs God. And every man needs to learn to humble himself before God.
Enjoy teachings from Pastor Chris Oyakilome.
Here's what the Lord is instructing you to do. Prepare yourself in the Word of God. Feed your faith. Prepare yourself in the Word.
Build your faith and get to know who you are in Christ Jesus.
Feed your faith. There's a spiritual attack of some kind through sickness. Build your faith strong.
Every Thursday from 8:30 p.m. on EBN TV, transforming your world.
In a fast-paced world filled with distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters: your relationship with God. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we take you on a transformative journey of building your faith, without which it's impossible to please God. A journey of introspection and discovery of who you are in Christ Jesus.
For you to walk with God, you should not crumble when you come under pressure. Kama umeokoka, sema umeokoka mpaka mbele ya president, mpaka mbele ya chief justice, mpaka mbele ya kila mtu. Hiyo ndio kuokoka ya ukweli. Kuokoka ya ukweli.
Enjoy a faith-filled environment of worship and ministry of the word every Tuesday and Thursdays from 9 a.m. with Reverend Felix Kevoy, exclusively on EBN TV.
The word of the Lord today.
Well, welcome back to the Morning Live. Today, Kenya turns 60 since becoming a republic in the year 1964. Well, we've had 5 presidents to date, from Jomo Kenyatta, the first and founding president, followed by Daniel Moi, together with Mwai Kibaki being the 3rd president. Immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Today we do have President William Ruto, who is working on the bottom-up transformation agenda. It is his economic model that he trusts and believes it will help him revolutionize the country and ensure that we do grow economically. Well, it is just another day to expect different issues to be properly addressed by the head of state during his speech. We are waiting to see how that will go on. But joining me this morning is Oruko Were, a lawyer and also a political analyst, who will be helping us understand different aspects to do with today. Exactly what is this specific growth that Kenya has experienced? We've seen the data highlighted by the Daily Nation of how far the country has come, different aspects, be it education, all the way to the issue to do with employment. The active employment today, we are talking of 19 million active employment. That is actually a big number, considering that back in 1965, only 1.8 million Kenyans were employed. Tremendous growth. Good morning, my brother.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
I do hope you are well.
I'm well.
Are you happy that today we are turning 60?
I might be happy, yes. I have to be happy. Yes.
Yes, we are talking about patriotism. Many, I'm pretty sure, don't really understand what patriotism is and to what extent patriotism should be celebrated.
You see, patriotism usually has to be divided into 2 aspects.
Yes.
On the one aspect is the love for my country. And within the love for my country comes the second aspect, which is criticizing that which I don't like. Be it our leadership, be it development, be it distribution of resources, be it availability of opportunities to all of us, and all those aspects. When I look at them, then I am patriotic enough to speak about the ills I see and to celebrate the milestones that we have made as Kenyans.
Yes. Now, let's start from Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. One of the things he's been talking about, or rather he was talking about, was let's end poverty, illiteracy, what used to sound very awkward, ujinga.
Ujinga.
Yes, and also disease.
Yes.
You know, these are major issues that are affecting a nation. Once you deal with poverty and the so-called illiteracy, there is a lot you fought. Have we made strides?
Yes, we've made strides. If you look at the developments that we've been doing, majorly on health sector, majorly on education, and even on infrastructural developments, then we've made strides in comparison to our peers.
Yes.
But now, we look at it this way. A nation cannot grow if it cannot cure its people. A healthy nation will always grow. After you have cured your nation, that is the health sector, is when you move to education.
When you have good education is when now you move to food. When you have food, you move to clothing. When you provide people with these four, then they can work on the others. And that's why you've always had this joke of, we don't eat the roads. Because this is someone who expects you to cure the health, expects you to cure the education, expects you to cure the food. And once we have these three, or plus clothing, the four, then I can work hard, produce income, which government can tax and do other things, which are also important but subsidiary to these four.
Yes.
However, if you check when we are starting back then, when our leaders went to London, the Lancaster 1960,
yes,
and we start our walk towards having a parliament and having leaders who will help us make our laws, down to 1961 when Jomo Kenyatta is leaving the prison.
Yes.
We boil down to, we bring it also down to 1962 when we have the second Lancaster.
Yes.
And 1963 when we get our independence. Kenya has grown in leaps through to 1963, 60 years later. And we have seen growth in a lot of sectors. Number one, we have seen growth in education,
yes,
where initially we had education divided into those for the whites and those for the blacks, and even not all those for the maskini who are the natives, yes, but we even had those for the not preferring girl child to be educated.
Yes.
And you see, these things have developed over time, in that you find that these days access to school has become something which is a right. We can access schools in different spaces for as long as I qualify. In that if I reach a certain mark, then I am guaranteed that I'll join national school and all those. And you have seen also what used to be called the schools for the whites, which later became national schools. The government has also moved to expand national schools, where we have schools which were considered provincials or districts, were improved, infrastructural development improved. If we see access to roads, we had places like Marsabit and part of Northeastern,
yes,
who built the first road after 2010. You see? So we've had development of roads, and we've had also development of access to electricity,
yes,
access to food, and even participation when it comes to the political space. So we've developed. When we target education, we've developed. When we target health sector, we've also developed. When we target politically all the social engagement, we've also developed, in that right now, coming from a point where you could not call Kenyatta by the name,
yes,
Moi by the name, into a point where we can call Kibaki by the name, and tell Kibaki you're wrong on this one, threaten Kibaki once in a while, Uhuru, call Kibaki by the names we want. Remember the Robert Alai issue of calling Uhuru an adolescent? And the court comes out and rules that, you know what, freedom of expression, yes, has been emboldened in the Constitution, and I don't have to say sweet words to the government so that they think that I'm expressing rightfully my freedom to expression. And then we've also come towards having counties, where counties now bring the aspect of, besides the side of the politics that I fall, I have a minimum that I will get when it comes to sharing of the national cake. Remember, initially, if you are not singing Moi or Kenyatta's name, then you are not likely to get anything, yes, out of the government. And then now you see also that coming with the counties, we go back to 1969 and there before, where we had something called a sessional paper. And the sessional paper was trying to divide Kenya into what is profitable and what is not profitable. Yes. So we are looking at Kenya in terms of, if I look at Northeastern, then it doesn't look to me like it's going to produce more to the country if I invest as a government.
Yes.
If I look to a place like Central, a place like Nairobi, it looks like if I invest, it's going to give Kenya back some money. Yes. So the sessional paper was structured in a very, very wrong way, in that it was looking at a country in terms, like a company. It was looking at a country in terms of which part is more profitable, instead of looking at a country in terms of why is this part not seen as profitable.
Yes.
In that, if I think that part A of the country is not profitable, then what investments am I supposed to put in this area to pull people into that area and to make that area more productive? So we've grown in very many aspects politically, up to a point where most people have chances to participate in the politics, public participation and everything. We've grown in terms of health sector, where you find that it's in every county today, you have an access to a medical facility which is up to par. When it comes to infrastructure, we've seen the way our road network is developing, our electricity network is developing, our internet network is developing. And when we come to other sectors like education, we have seen access from private sector being allowed to come in and try to supplement that which government was not able to do. And also government working hard to ensure that access to education is continually improved. The other day I saw them trying to make sure that we have transition. Those who come from class 8, majority of them transit to high school.
100% transition.
And those who come from Form 4, majority of them transit into university. And with that development, then access to education has been empowered.
Interesting. Now, a quick one, just even before we dive into other issues. Daily Nation still has highlighted urban hunger rises as harsh economic bite. Researchers say there is still a large number of people who are food poor in urban areas 60 years after Kenya's independence. And one of the things was to make sure that we do fight poverty. Poverty, an average Kenyan adult spend a total of 7,393 Kenya shillings per month on food and non-food items. Basically, someone needs 7,400 to survive in a month right here in the capital. But then we've been fighting poverty. On average, poverty has remained a major issue in the country. Just 1963, according to the World Data Atlas, Poverty and Inequity database, the poverty rate in Kenya in 1992 was 31.7%. It keeps on growing every day, and the margin between the rich and the poor also keeps on widening. What is the problem? Can we really fight poverty? Can we bring it down? Because it is also one of the major, it is part of SDG.
Yes. You see, poverty is part of, in fact, it should form a major part of the SDG. However, if you check the main causes of poverty, usually are the inequities that we face. Some of those inequities being the political space has been wired in such a way that it protects the elite.
Yes.
You see, mindless of whether you are in the opposition or you are in the government, you have to qualify as an elite to join the political space. So this shows you that within the political space, now that you understand that public finance and politics are correlated, public finance is where we sit down and distribute what goes into what. So if I am not an elite, or rather if I'm an elite, my problems are different from the problems of someone who is considered poor, because an elite is not poor. So it means from the first instance, discussions are not equal. Discussions tend to discriminate on someone who is not poor because his or her voice is not being heard. You see? That's usually number one. And then number two, we've seen the issues of corruption.
Yes.
In that, you get that money that could easily have been channeled towards factors that cure poverty are being channeled otherwise.
Yes.
For example, you cannot cure poverty if you cannot cure the issue of health and the issue of food.
Yes.
Because those are the main things that connect all of us.
Yes.
The issue of food, you see, today, we have in various parts of the country, what should be termed as agricultural lands are being subdivided and sold.
Yes.
Areas which can't be agricultural lands are areas that you see not being touched. So if you keep destroying your agricultural base, then it makes food expensive in the long run. Yes, today I will go to a fertile area, Kiambu or Sengishu, our Kitale, our very fertile areas, and I decide to divide. Yes, I will get profit. I will sell land even 500,000 per every quarter, and maybe I get some good profit.
Yes.
But if we look at it in terms of long run, then food becomes expensive because we have to keep importing. We become reliant on other people to provide us with food, having destroyed our structure. And then now you look at other issues like nepotism. Nepotism ensures that I take Ruko here, who is not maybe agriculture conversant, and put him to head a ministry which is agriculture heavy. In that, you cannot say that I put you as the head, and then I put other people as peers and what and what. Whereas you are not good in agriculture. The policies, the people who draft policies are very intelligent Kenyans. And there's usually this joke that a very, very intelligent person cannot reason equally with someone who is less intelligent. So these people will tend to avoid you because you cannot understand them. And when you're put there and you're not very qualified, you start becoming erratic. You start looking at, where do I eat from? You stop looking at, how do we produce more? So the issue of nepotism comes in. But also, we've had this issue of mismatch between what is learned in school and what we need as a country. So there's that mismatch in that you get that a specialist who is good in agriculture comes out good according to the books. But now when you put them to practice, we realize that there is that mismatch between what is needed and what is not
job
needed.
market. Yes.
And even when we go further, we've seen laws coming out, and these laws are tending to discourage our traditional way of farming and preferring farming styles which are modern. And those farming styles which we don't have control of.
Yes.
In that, you find that if today you go to Kitale and you do mass production of maize, that seed is not owned by you. So I control the type, you cannot say the way traditionally we usually take those best seeds, we keep them, and then we eat the others. These best ones are the ones we will do next season. They'll refuse and tell you, no, you cannot repeat, you cannot replant a seed. So you have to plant this, it's done, you plant another one, it's done, because the seed is not owned by the country. And the big corporate companies are coming in with that. You've seen even the laws that are coming in terms of doing dairy farming.
Yes.
Very soon you'll need a license.
Yeah.
Doing chicken and all those, very soon you need a license. So all those laws which are being put, these people don't understand the plight of someone who is poor, someone who is doing subsistence farming. Those are the issues of poverty. And we've had those issues many times in the country.
Yes.
Yes, because there's that disconnect politically, distribution of finance-wise, education-wise, and all those. And those are the issues which we tried to cure from 1963. And if they are not cured as a basic or from the onset, then the gap keeps widening and growing and growing. And I think it will keep going up because also based on the situations that we are facing currently in the world, in that situations make you remain with less and less and less, and you cannot save. And the moment you cannot save, then the poverty will always continue being there.
Well, we also do understand that this is a day that we do need to acknowledge some of the famous, or rather the specific faces and individuals who fought for the independence of our nation and made sure that Kenya did not only gain independence, but also it became a republic in 1964. Today we are celebrating the heroes. As a nation, we do understand that today, we need to observe today's celebrations at Uhuru Gardens, just in Langata. Will the Mau Mau war veterans and all those who were involved in fighting for the independence and the freedom for our nation, will they be given a specific area? Do we really honor our heroes the way we should honor them? Compared to the US,
we neglect our heroes. Before we go to the Mau Mau, let me give you the most current one. You remember Wangari Maathai, the late?
Yes.
When Kibaki was in government, Wangari Maathai was put as Assistant Minister of Environment, someone with international accolades, and then go look at who was the minister. You see? But now let's jump back to Mau Mau. You see, if you dig the issue of Mau Mau, initially, we were very content with how we were living. Our Ubuntu way of living required that for as long as I have enough land and I can till it, we viewed resources as enough. And then the whites came and removed us from our homes and put us in what we usually call towns. Kiambuk town, Nakuru town, these things we call towns are where all the blacks were put together so that the lands, we will have the fertile lands for agriculture. Good side and bad side. But now, when we come down to people who fought, the Mau Mau who fought, roughly will you see those who were rewarded. You see? And we've had their children coming down, and also trying to fight over the land which was taken away from them and was never given back to them. We've seen the issue of Mungiki. If you dig it deeper, you realize that there's usually something which fuels that kind of movement. You see, so Mau people have always been neglected in the country, something which is very, very painful. And reason being, those who went into the government when the whites were living were not Mau. They had not fought. They didn't understand why the Mau people needed to be rewarded. And remember, if you dig history, the first act was these Maus were being told that now the fights have ended, you people have to bring guns, and if you don't bring guns, I'll come for you. You see, so it was never a negotiation between how do we reward our Maus, but how the leaders who came into power could take the resources which were left by the whites. If you follow the history of Kina Angaine, you will see that these were people who, yes, they were tasked with distributing the property, but look at how much they distributed to themselves. And that speaks much. If you look at the first president then, how much of the country he distributed to himself. You see? So you can easily trace down through today how the inequalities have always happened and how we've always neglected our heroes. Remember the other day, Dedan Kimathi's wife.
Yes.
You know, this is not a lady who should die in abject poverty because, you know, his husband paid the ultimate price. But he was neglected.
Yes.
If you look at these people we understand as the Maus, most of them have died in abject poverty or have been neglected, or history has been tweaked in some way so that to ensure that we try to forget them and remember our today's heroes. And our today's heroes are our leaders. And we can see our leaders as corrupt as they are. So I don't see much coming from today's to do with and literally, besides nothing coming from today's engagement and the president's statements, I don't think they need to be given a space. I think what the president needs to do is a long-term thing. Come and say that we will always provide funds which go to the Mau families. You see, like in the developed nations, there is that part of fund which goes to them directly. So that you say that we have a list of all these people who are Mau, even if they're 1 million, whichever the number they are, the government has got all the resources to know them. Once the government knows them and avoids corruption of having the quote-unquote the Maus who are fake Maus, once the government knows them, we know that these 20,000 people are the ones who fought for this country. Then every year in the budget, we have an office for them, which takes care of Maus and make sure that those children, those wives who remained, all those in their families who suffered because they were not there fighting for the country, are rewarded in one way or the other. You can even say all children of Mau should be given free education. You see? You should find a way of rewarding them. All children of Mau will be given a certain ranch. We had ranches whose leases have since expired. The government can recover those lands and say that, you know what, you people's fathers fought, your land, we know what has happened, come distribute these 100,000 acres of land, and you people will be called Maus, and you people stay here. So we should find a way which is long-term to them. Just mentioning them in a presidential speech
is not enough.
A speech is never eaten. You see, and most of these people are sick because of what were done by the British. Most of them are sick to date. They can't access the hospital. Most of them, their children left them because the children are feeling like you never did anything much to help us. So we should find a way which is long-term and include them in the national dialogue and ensure that the little that we have as a country, maybe we could not have had this country were they not there to fight. So the little that we've had as a country, let's give a certain portion, even 2% of the budget will always go to the plight of these people. And then just do basic things. Their children to get free education and they should access healthcare for free. Once you give someone education and health, and then we look for how they can get food through some little tokens, other things start forming themselves.
They feel appreciated. They feel part and parcel of the country. You know, you've just reminded me of that specific burial of Mukami, the late Dedan Kimathi's wife in Nyandarua here. We went for that burial and you could hear a number of them complaining of how the government has failed to fully cater for their needs because they did sacrifice for the benefit of our nation. But then 60 years down the line, still they continue complaining that the government has not fully compensated them, and they have not really been embraced by the nation as required. Now, 1963, today we are at 2023, and 60 years down the line, there is so much to be proud of, definitely, but also there is so much to really look into and make sure that as a nation we work round the clock to correct just some of the conspicuous issues that do stand out in today's regime. Oruko, you've talked about issue to do with poverty. There is also the other issues to do with employment. We do understand that once a nation has enough employees, or rather employment opportunities, then the youth are able to work and fend for themselves. Because you've just talked about streamlining the issues to do with health, the issues to do with food, education, literacy. We do have a number of students or rather individuals who've gone to school. They do have their degrees, but then employment becomes an issue. What is the problem? What is the disconnect? Because we've tried to cure poverty to some level. We've tried to cure education, lack of illiteracy, that is, to some extent. We do have uneducated youth without employment opportunity.
Yes, you see, education, just like I said, priority number one, get this person to eat,
yes,
get this person health, get this person to clothe, and then educate this person. You see, education is as a result of a lot of factors, and even education is what determines employment. Because how we have structured our education, to the advantages of it and to the disadvantages of it, I put it to Kibaki's government.
Yes.
Now, Kibaki's government comes in, realizes that our education levels are low, decides instead of building other universities, transforms technical institutions into universities. You see, blunder number one. Because, you see, technical skills today are more valued compared to degree. Because degree, per se, is more of managing.
Yes.
It's not more of... Majority of people who have degrees cannot work better than those who have diplomas. Because diploma teaches you the skill. Degree teaches you to manage these people.
Yes.
So you cannot manage that which you don't know. So let's come back to, we are interested not in education, but in certificate. You see, so you get that someone is okay with copying their way through. Someone is okay with doing anything for as long as they have the certificate. But not knowing that when you reach outside here, we don't care about your degree. Today I'll take a Form 4. Let's say I've opened an hotel. I have an hotel. And then I bring 2 Form 4s and I teach them how to cook the types of food that I sell.
Yes.
And I have a caterer who has done it up to the highest level and cannot prepare specific foods which are consumed in this area. Whom will I employ?
Definitely the Form 4.
Because skills matter a lot. Now, our education system is certificate based. I want to graduate. I want to be seen to be having a degree.
Yes.
But I don't sit down and look at, am I picking a course? Am I entering an education system with intention of solving a problem? What problem am I solving? Now, unemployment is being caused by such factors as the things which the government is doing, which discourages investment.
Yes.
You see, we are chasing away those people who are capital friendly, who can put in a lot of money within the system. And also, we are discouraging people from investing. In that, if I know that taking my money and putting it in a different, in bonds, let's say I put it in bonds in the country, I stand to get a certain amount of income, let's say 12%. So I know that if I put there 1 billion, I will be having 120 million end of the year. Taxes are so less. I put 1 billion in normal operation, I will be having the same 120 million as profit, but it has 30% as taxes, corporate taxes.
Yes.
And then it also has increased 1.5 housing levy, which I have to pay for my employees.
Yes.
It also has all those things I have to match every time employee produces. I will run out of investment into this kind of bonds and those kind of type of investment. So unemployment is caused by many factors, but one of them is mismatch between education and what the industry needs. In that you'll get that someone has graduated, instead of learning a skill that is needed, this person decides that since I can't get a job, let me come upwards to masters. You are mastering, but you're not mastering a skill which is needed. So that mismatch between economy, the industry, and what is being taught in our classes sometimes has led to a lot of unemployment, because this person is coming out not ready. And most employers have seen, there's a time I was reading a report that most employers are worried that they usually take graduates and then they have to retrain them. So you get a graduate, you employ them, but you have to keep retraining them for your work. They cannot qualify to do your work the way it's supposed to be done. But another thing that is causing unemployment usually is nepotism and corruption.
Yes.
In that, if I know very well that Oruko here is good in a certain area, and I don't employ him in that area, then the multiplication in that area is limited. Example, I take a minister who is not friendly to that ministry because of political affiliation, and I put someone who is not qualified in that ministry, then multiplication in that ministry becomes less because the capacity is lacking. You see, so we've had the issues of nepotism in that you get people being employed who are not qualified because they tribally qualify. We've had the issues of corruption where you have to pay your way in and you have to keep paying someone. And all those things then injure development in certain sectors. And if those sectors don't develop, then we have a lot of unemployment. And we have a lot of people who are being chucked out from the education system, but those who cannot be absorbed by any of the sectors.
Yeah, interesting. Now, we do also understand that this specific area where we are, Buruburu, once it was coming up, different individuals, experts, researchers used to come to Buruburu just to benchmark, try and understand this kind of estate. Talk of Vietnam. Vietnam used to come and benchmark in Kenya because we were almost economically at par. But today we talk of a country like Singapore. They say they are 40 years ahead of time in terms of development, all major sectors, be it infrastructure, talk of education, health sector, everything of theirs is enormous. Greatly it has greatly developed. Where did the rain start beating us as a nation? Did we stop thinking as a great nation we were, or is it a matter of leadership?
It's a combination of leadership and education. You see, you cannot develop without knowledge. You cannot have knowledge without investment. You see? And then without investment, then you start lagging. Number one, look at our education before 844. 844 came to be certificate-based, making sure that many people qualify in education. But before that, if you look at people who went to school before that, it was not certificate-based. It was you as a person being pushed towards having knowledge. It was knowledge that is pushing you, and you could accept to yourself that I cannot get knowledge in this area because it's not my area. Now, if we check at these nations who were benchmarking in Kenya, let's take, for example, Singapore. Singapore had to change a lot of things. They had to change their way of thinking, in that they had to make sacrifices and bring in people and laws which could punish anybody who went against their move towards development. In that they had to put in their leaders who understood what they were working for. Today in the country where it started hitting us, we have leaders who are looking at themselves. How much can I have? Me as a president, me as a minister. I have appointed you in a department in a certain ministry. How much are you giving me per month? And if you're not giving me, I'll chase you away. Look at the police sector. You see? How much are you bringing as corruption amounts for me to keep you in that space? So the moment we as a country are not thinking 50, 40, 30 years, we are thinking in terms of 5 years so that I can be re-elected, then we cannot develop per se. And if you look at places like Vietnam, places like Singapore, they don't have anything more than what we have. In fact, if then we were at par, then I don't see why they should have left us. But now, you come down and look at the kind of leaderships that we've had. Look at the kind of leadership that we had under Kenyatta. Look at the kind of leadership that we had under Moi. You see? Look at the kind of leadership that we had even under Kibaki. You see? Under Moi and Kenyatta, we had a lot of people who were qualified in the country, who were exiting the country because they could not say that this is wrong. I know very well that whatever you're doing is wrong, but I can't tell you because maybe I might end up not being there. You see? And during Moi also, we lost a lot of human capital. And besides that also, when politics is put in such a way that it is not friendly, then it usually discourages investments. You see? And when investments are discouraged, then you cannot develop.
Yes.
You see, most of the things currently, if we were to speak currently, most of the things we have, we are importing. If I am importing almost everything, then how am I able to develop? So you find that we've lacked based on governance, we've lacked based on education per se, and we've lacked majorly based on the issues of corruption. You see? So that I'm looking at not as how much you can do, I'm looking at how much I can get.
Yes.
This guy who helped us come up with a better Singapore, a better Malaysia. If you look at those nations and you try to dig them through, these people sat down and agreed that we have to be as bad as we can for us to develop. But when you come to our country, look at how we've been managing the country back then. We can trace it back then to 70 something, let's say 75, down to even today. You realize that nothing has changed. It's more of cronies, recycling leaders, promoting corruption, and looking at tokenism. In that, if I find that Oruko is the one who is talking ill about the ills in government, then I call Oruko and give Oruko a brown envelope. So
to keep quiet.
Yes, we were left when we decided to look at individuals as a route towards development and not systems as routes towards development, because we can have a good individual. I like complimenting Michuki. Michuki was an individual who tried so much to bring a lot of changes in the country. And then down to Matiang'i, someone who really did much. You could see every ministry could step in, changes coming in. But a person is not enough. What's enough is a system. When a system is enough, it works even if the person is not there. It aligns whoever comes in in that space.
Now, talk about when former President Mwai Kibaki got into power. The first thing I remember he did is launching Vision 2030, one of the major things he did. And Vision 2030 is a vision that is expected of every government institution, organization, or rather department is expected to align their vision and mandate with that 2030 vision. Kenya 2030 vision, we are basically 7 years before we reach that vision. And Kibaki saw years before, this is the Kenya I would want to be. But then our children today, can we really confidently say that come 2030 we will be able to launch cities, we will be able to have these skyscrapers that Kibaki saw?
I doubt. In that, like I've told you, development cannot come. I mean, these kind of goals cannot be achieved if we discourage development.
Yes.
Because these are things which the government cannot do by itself, but it has to invite people to come and do. Number two, development doesn't come to a space which is lacking in terms of the basics. Why should I chase a skyscraper when my people are moving outside their inroads to go and access healthcare? You see, these are the people who are supposed to develop the nation. And if you cure those two small things, then we rise very fast. Because let me give a good example. You know how we spend almost $1 trillion going outside there to seek medical assistance.
Yes.
Now, assume that the same money was remaining in the country. You see? Instead of going out there to seek medical assistance, it's remaining in the country, because we start from how much someone spends flying out, how much someone spends in hotel outside there, how much someone spends in the hospital outside there, and they're not going alone. And then think of how many of them are going. Let's come down to education. What kind of education are we giving our people so that by the time we are in 2030, these people have the capacity to handle that which we want them to handle? Then let's look at access to food. You've seen, they're saying that it was 31%. It has really increased the poverty gap. So access to food has become a problem. Now tell me, what priority will you have if you have today 1,000? Do you think about, you have not eaten, you cannot eat well, you cannot access health, you cannot access education. Do you think of investing this thing in bonds?
Definitely not.
You think of eating. So if you can encourage these aspects of good education, if you can encourage good clothing, you can encourage good food, you can encourage good health, then a lot is saved, and that which is saved is what is invested back into the country. Less of it is very expensive. Poor education is expensive, poor health is expensive, poor food is expensive, and in that case, then I don't see the infrastructural developments and all this development being achieved by 2030. However, some of them we might try to achieve. But what matters is at what cost do we achieve them? But we remember initially we had something which was called Millennium Goals, which we wanted to achieve by, I think it was by 2000, where the then president was saying every Kenyan will have a tap with running water in their homes. To date, I don't think it's more than 40% who have running water in their homes.
Yeah.
You get the thing? So that was millennium. 23 years ago, it was supposed to have been achieved by 2000, 23 years ago. We are yet to achieve it to date. So simply also because majority of these leaders don't care about 2030. Our current president, if he runs for 10 years, he's supposed to go up to 2032.
Yes.
So he will be thinking up to 2032, not 2030. And when it comes to 2030, he will bring excuses of, you see, the people said this, oh, so and so did what? We have no capacity to build a 2030 that Kibaki wanted. Maybe he laid the ground stones, but we have no capacity as we are now to build it based on the things that we are doing. The taxes, we are increasing taxes, chasing people away, leaving people with thin amounts to save. We are killing the education sector by bringing, remember the other day we had issues with KCPE, having all those issues.
Yes.
So that's killing the education sector. See the way we've had professionals who are masquerading, and you see leaders are championing them. You see, and you see also we've had food. The other time we have edible oil and food which is not good for our health coming in, and you see that will cause losses in the future.
Yes.
You see, when it comes to infrastructure, we have developed. The other day I had the minister being asked, and he was saying he doesn't have control of where to be developed and where not to be developed. So if you do those kind of skewed things, it means that I am investing in a place that is not giving maximum of the returns simply because I come from that place. So in this case, then how do we achieve the Vision 2030? If we cannot sit down by ourselves and look at the vision itself, we are looking at the vision with an eye of where do I come from?
Yes.
So that's why I keep saying our leadership lacks the capacity or the will. Maybe they might have the capacity, but they lack the will. Our education system limits our capacity to handle such kind of a mindset. You see, our requirements in that what I require, what's priority to me, which has not been sorted, limits that capacity.
Yes.
And then the government decisions also have been limiting those capacities, and more also something called political interest. In that when I come into the government, majority of what Vision 2030 is saying is in your place.
Yes.
And not in my place. Then in this case, I will prefer not to do it because it's not in your place. I'll prefer for things which are in my place. So we lack the capacity, and I don't think we will achieve it.
Yes, just as we are almost winding up, Ebu, tell us slightly about how can we teach our children, and specifically even the youth. We do understand that Gen Z has detached much from patriotism, being a real Kenyan, enjoying being a Kenyan. How can we now bring the youth on board to learn these things, to learn our history, to try and appreciate our nation?
First, we have to teach them that there is good history and bad history. If we teach them about history, that's where Kenya is coming from, and what we've been trying to cure in Kenya, then they might start getting interest in. Keep in mind that we also have leadership which champions and lives on the bad habits, champion corruption, champion killings, champions all the ills. So this youth is not concerned about patriotism because all they can see being aired out there is either corruption, who has killed who has talked bad, who has done what. But now, we need to put our syllabus to start teaching these people history from when they're so young, to understand this is the bad history, this is the good history, and I'm teaching you to be on the good side of the history. Align our education in certain way that is promoting patriotism. And then also, another thing, the reason these people are not, most of the youths are not patriotic, look at our leadership today. It's age heavy in that we are people whose leadership is made of people who are advanced age. We have from Moody Awaris, the 90-somethings, down to Ruto. I think President Ruto right now should be around 50-something. I can't. Yes. So you see, a youth feels like these people don't understand me. The decisions that they make are not favoring me. You see? Unemployment, decisions that they make don't cure unemployment, and unemployment 90% touches on the youth. When we come to distribution of slots, the kind of people who are even given ministries which are youth related are old people. Initially sports used to be, there's a time sports was given to very people who could not understand some of these aspects.
Yes.
So you see, youths need to be brought first of all into the leadership space so that they can understand why they need to keep working hard to bring in Kenya. And then also the people in leadership and the government need to come up with programs that understand the youth. The other day you saw youth blogging and this ICT related stuff are more youth heavy.
Yes.
But you see, the other day tax was included in them, which now kills the urge to continue doing such kind of acts. You see? When you come to another issue where youths are usually not very, very, very patriotic, they usually learn that part of the history that they have been taught is usually a bit skewed. There's history that is usually limited. And their current today is different from then. Whatever we want today, we are in the ICT world, in the world, it is not related to the fights that we used to have in the past. You see? And then also, youths have been looking at people who have been patriotic in the country and not seeing anything good that has come from them. There are people who have been very, very patriotic in the country, including some of their parents, and they're not seeing anything that has come from this. So we need to inculcate in education what is that need to be taught about our history to encourage patriotism. We need to inculcate in decision making what is that affects the youth that needs to be included. We need to inculcate in our social fabric the importance of Kenya as a nation and not Kenya in terms of the who's and the we's. Yes.
Interesting. Basically trying to help us understand that we are the leaders of tomorrow, we the youth. Therefore, there is need for us to be involved in leadership positions and also try to understand our origin as Kenyans. Where did we come from? And today we do expect that President William Ruto will address different issues that are currently affecting the country and also forge a way forward for the nation. Where are we headed to? Come 2030, will we achieve the vision 2030 with some of the strategies that his government has put in place? Or rather, how far will the strategies under the Kenya Kwanza government help the country grow and become financially capable? Remember, so many countries used to come to Kenya to benchmark, and still with our level of corruption in East Africa, Kenya and Africa at large, Kenya still stands out across the world. Kenya is visible. Then that tells us that there are certain nuts we need to bolt and make sure that as a nation we move forward on matters development and different issues. Now it is time to celebrate our country. It is time to celebrate and honor those men and women who fought for our freedom and make sure that as a nation we do move forth we are looking forward to President William Ruto's speech today, some of the issues that he will highlight. Remember, a section of Kenyans, according to the story we did highlight early in the morning, that they expect that the presidency will highlight the issue to do with the cost of living, the issue to do with the employment, and every other aspect, education, that are heavy on our country's growth. Well, many thanks for tuning in, but remember to keep it EBN TV, as we shall be live, making sure you are up to date with issues affecting you as the common mwananchi. We shall be live on our socials and also live on TV, just to bring you up to date matters making headlines, and also how the celebrations will be ongoing at Uhuru Gardens in Lang'ata, right here in the capital, in Nairobi. Do have a fantastic day ahead.